Welcome to USC Ideas and Actions, the official University of Southern California podcast. Shows are webcast live on Facebook from Studio 1A in the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, and welcome to Studio A at USC Annenberg. I'm Professor Andrea Armani.
And I'm John Lash, the Executive Director for the Alfred Mann Institute for Biomedical Engineering here at USC.
And today we're going to be talking about convergent biosciences and technology and the impact on healthcare.
So, Andrea, people may wonder what we have in common with our different roles. So would you like to take a shot at it, and then I'll take a shot?
I would be very happy to.
Okay.
So as a professor of engineering, I run a research group. We actually focus on developing kind of early stage technologies in order to try to better understand disease and diagnose disease and how they can kind of evolve and progress. And AMI?
And what we do at AMI is we take early stage technologies that have commercial promise, and we help to move them towards commercialization. So we have a team at the Institute that focuses on technology development, filing patents, building boxes, spinning out companies, and we try to move technology from the bench of the best scientists here at USC towards commercialization for the purposes of providing folks with higher quality life science products that can help the quality of their life.
So you must have a pretty large team at AMI in order to do everything from the prototyping to the patenting to the early stage startup companies. How do you manage all those different kind of branches?
So we actually have right now 21 full-time employees and some interns and 5 entrepreneurs in residence that help to guide the folks. We have a very diverse institute. We have scientists, engineers, clinicians, business development people, patent attorneys, regulatory experts, and a lot of crossover activity. So a lot of people who are technically trained often go on to get MBAs or regulatory science masters and sometimes JDs, law degrees and things like that. We also use some of our resources to draw on outside help, and we work with the faculty and their laboratories.
Oh, interesting. So if a faculty member is interested in translating a technology, for example, if I wanted to translate one of my technologies, do they just engage with you directly? How do you...
Yeah, sometimes they engage with us directly. Sometimes we know them and we follow their work and we talk to them. What we do that's very different than what typical faculty does is we use a more business of science approach, where we use what we call in the shop a pull model. So the approach is to try to understand really early on what the uses of the technology are, what the unmet needs are, not just from a business standpoint, but also from a clinical need. So we try to understand what patients need, physicians need. We try to understand how these things are going to build a business. We then try to understand whether the technology can be protected with patents. And then, of course, one of the most important things that we try to understand early on is whether we can actually scale the technology to make useful products and not just things that work one time in the laboratory.
I have also found that same kind of using the pull approach has worked very well in my research group. So for those who aren't familiar, there's kind of 2 approaches. There's the push model or the pull model, where the push model is you develop a technology and then try to push it on society,
right.
Where the pull model, you wait for society to recognize it has a need and then try to pull the technology towards it.
Right.
Obviously, both methods have shown great success. For example, the iPhone and cell phones, society didn't recognize they actually needed a cell phone until it appeared, and
right.
Now it's ubiquitous. Whereas the pull model has also, had great use, and there are a lot of technologies that were pulled out of the labs. For example, improved vaccines and antibiotics. And in the medical sciences in particular, the pull model is very successful because you have to get adoption by clinicians, and clinicians can be understandably very hesitant to adopt new technologies because people's lives are on the line. So it kind of depends if it's just general purpose use versus a healthcare use.
Right. I would agree with that completely. The healthcare or life sciences track is very, very long and very expensive and very complicated with extensive regulatory hurdles to be overcome. And so that can be something that can take many years and cost many millions of dollars typically today to produce and market a new drug. It can cost $1 billion for a company to do that. So for the most part, for those kinds of products, people do like to use the pull model because they want to understand where they're going to go with this early on, so that they can keep adjusting as they need to in order to increase the chances that they'll be successful. Because in life science technology development, the failure rate is high because it is so complicated. The push model, which all technologists are familiar with at the very beginning of their careers and learn later on, sort of some business rules. The push model is sort of like saying, if we build it, they will come. But the problem is in our industry, that doesn't mean they'll buy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Especially if you can't convince people that your baseball field is in fact better than the baseball field next to you.
That's true. Right. So let me shift gears a little bit, and you've recently moved into the Michelson Center. So that's a fantastic looking building. But what are the great points about this, and why is this a good thing for you and your lab?
So it obviously is a beautiful building. So just some points of reference. It's the largest research-only building on campus, which means it's basically a playground for scientists and engineers. And it has researchers from biology, chemistry, physics, and almost all of the engineerings. So computer science, biomedical, electrical, chemical, material science. So it's kind of like a fruit salad of fields. And because we're all in one place and we all have a common goal of trying to solve health science problems, just our co-location is really enabling discussions around how to solve problems. And in addition, the building is incredibly unique, both in the USC campus as well as worldwide, in that it has two core facilities. So a core facility is a lab that everybody on a campus can use. So it's open access. And the two core facilities in the Michelson Center are a nanofabrication lab, which is basically a machine shop to make things that are smaller than an individual virus. So they're very tiny. And then an electron microscopy lab, which is a lab that you can use to image the things smaller than a virus. So you have the place where you're going to make them and the place where you're going to take their picture. And they're right next to each other. But obviously these two labs, because you're making these little tiny things, have very specific requirements on what kind of slab or what kind of floor that they can rest on. And usually what happens is a building will be built, and then kind of as an afterthought, a contractor will say, or an administrator in the university will say, oh, we kind of want to put our nanofab in this building, or oh, we want to put our new imaging facility in this building. And then they have to retrofit the building. And as anyone who's ever done a construction project on their house, like expanded a bathroom or redone a kitchen, retrofitting never goes quite as well as you want it to.
That's true.
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier. So if you do it from the beginning, if you design the building with the intention of having a nanofab in there, or the intention of having this microscopy facility in there, then it's perfect. Everything goes as planned. Your nanofab facility is ideal. It's in this perfect little home. And more importantly, these are core facilities not for the building, but for the campus, which means they act like magnets for researchers all across the campus and from the health science campus or the medical school. So everybody is flocking to the building, kind of even further expanding all of our collaborations. So it's really this kind of focused hub for everyone on campus, which is wonderful, especially as someone who's in the building, because I get to interact with everybody who's coming to the building.
So that sounds like you have tremendous resources that probably are rare to find even in most universities, and the that coupled with the cross-discipline environment should yield a lot of really interesting ideas and a lot of technologies which we can then help to move towards commercialization. So I think this is pretty unusual and unique to USC.
Yes, I anticipate you're going to be very, very busy in about a year, so you might want to start ramping up that staff.
Okay.
Because it is going to be a very exciting time.
We're ready to do that. Okay. So a little bit more granular about your lab. What's your student makeup look like? Is it a diverse lab? What are the opportunities for women in science coming out of your lab and things like that?
So all great questions. So my lab has about 30 students in it. About a third are undergrads, about probably the majority of the rest are PhD students with a few postdocs. So a postdoc is kind of like a residency for someone getting a PhD. So you usually do it if you want to become a faculty member. They come from all fields of engineering, so electrical, material science, biomedical, chemistry. So it really becomes kind of this melting pot of research, and they all kind of feed off of each other. So the chemists may make new materials to enable new ways of imaging or new types of diagnostic methods. So right now we're kind of focusing on two key technology areas. One is making a new malaria diagnostic, and one is making a new way of understanding cancer, which means my lab really bridges and collaborates a lot with the medical school. Because we obviously will do the technology development here, but then we need to validate our system. We need to make sure our idea works. So then we collaborate with researchers on the medical school in order to have access to animal samples and human samples when we get to that stage in the testing. As far as the makeup, USC for its undergrad is actually ranked highest in the nation. So the entering class this year was 44% women, which is more than twice the average undergrad across the country, so it's amazing. I'm proud to say my lab is actually better than that in terms of researchers. I'm very, very proud of that.
Our institute is half women.
Yeah, so you're also better than the undergrad population. We don't have to tell Giannis that.
Okay.
Dean Yortos that.
Okay. He'll never find out.
He'll never. Yeah, it's between us.
Yes.
And then at the grad level, we're also ranked number one in the country. So as an institution, USC really places a high priority on trying to encourage and promote women in science and engineering. Right. And they do this through a whole range of mechanisms. But probably the dominant is actually the Women in Science and Engineering program, which is an endowed program. And the endowment is actually specified directly for the WISE program. This is unique, and when I first came here, I didn't quite understand the nuance of how that worked. But frequently, if a gift is given, it will go into the President's General Fund or the Dean's General Fund with kind of an earmark saying this should go for the WISE account or this should go for another account. But there's a little bit of fuzzy gray area. When the WISE endowment was given, and it was actually given by an anonymous donor, it was specified that this endowment is specific for the WISE fund. It should be managed separately and kept separate from the other funds. And all of the money should go towards promoting women faculty, women postdocs, women grad students, women undergrads, and all of the money should be dedicated to that. And so because it had this isolation from all of the other funds, it was very clear exactly what the fund should be used for. And that has really changed kind of the dynamic of USC as an environment and as a culture. It's a great place to be a faculty member. It's an even better place to be a female faculty member.
Okay.
But it really is a great environment.
For people that are working in your lab that don't necessarily want an academic career, what are their other options?
So actually, the majority of people working in my lab don't want an academic career.
Okay.
And I think that's really a misconception. So the majority of people who get PhDs actually don't go the academic route, especially in engineering. So only like 7 to 10% of engineers actually take the academic path. And this makes sense if you actually think about it. So approximately, at least at USC, approximately 120 to 140 PhDs graduate each year. But USC hires about 8 to 10 faculty each year. And USC is a kind of a standard institution in terms of those numbers. So obviously we aren't graduating 140 and hiring 140. We only have about 190 total engineering faculty. So we can't just have 100% turnover in our faculty every year. So what do all these people do, right? This is a good question. So most of our students will go to industry, but industry is very broad, right? Industry could be startups. I've had one PhD student start a company. Industry could be national labs. It could be large companies. Right now, Google, Facebook, they're drawing a large number.
Okay.
It could also be going and becoming a patent lawyer. I had one student become a patent lawyer.
So how does all this sort of fit together with USC's overarching effort to build a larger biotech presence, not just for USC, but for the LA region with biotech parks and things like that? Can you comment on that?
I can comment, but I'm sure you also have a different perspective. So at least in Viterbi, there's a really big kind of push towards the new initiative kind of near the beach where there's ARL West, there's a new Silicon Beach kind of taking a term from the north. And then there's also kind of a biotech park that's beginning to form around the health science campus. So there's kind of several fragmented initiatives kind of with key focus areas to try to encourage, kind of these little catalyst sites.
Right, and I think the university is really doing a great job in helping to pull a lot of these sort of disparate entities together towards forming a more of a critical mass in biotech for LA. I think as most people who are familiar with this region know that besides USC, there are other academic institutions that we won't mention that also have great treasure chests of research and great research activity, and yet because the region is geographically spread out, a lot of times interaction is somewhat limited, and also biotech has not been a traditional industry here in the LA region. Other things like entertainment and manufacturing have been more traditional, and so building this hub will take advantage of all of the great research, all the great science and technology, the engineering and the clinical developments from all of the universities, but also it will attract the important investors to bring capital in here to take the technologies forward to develop the goods and services that will impact the quality of life and quantity of life too, so that we all benefit from that. And we just see here at USC a lot of interaction at the Michelson Center, at the institute that I manage, but also across the different schools, from the medical school to the dental school to pharmacy to Dornsife, and of course Viterbi leads this too.
How is AMI involved in the establishment of, for example, the new biotech corridor that is kind of bridging downtown and HSC and the beach?
Well, so our interest is in being supportive of helping to determine what technology should move forward commercially, because not all great science ideas make it out to the marketplace, and some of them are not really designed to do that. And so we try to do the analysis to help to move things towards that technology and product development pipeline. We also present, I believe, a pretty credible face to external investors that, such as angel networks and venture capitalists and investment bankers who seek to fund companies that we spin out, and they look for our organization to bridge academia to build structures that they actually can fund and build up into significant entities for that can produce products and bring value to their investors. So we bring that unique property to the whole biotech corridor to add that. And of course, there are other entities around LA that attempt to do similar things with their own style. There are a lot of accelerators and incubators in Los Angeles. We're very fortunate. We've been in recent years very successful at launching technologies out, some of them into China and products coming out there, some of them into the U.S. public markets, and so we're in the process of launching a number of other companies. We'll probably launch another half dozen over the next 12 to 18 months. So
Congratulations.
Thank you, and that's really important because it gives people confidence to invest more in the LA region, and it also gives an outlet for all the great work that people have started. And a lot of academic researchers, and I'm sure you see it this way, is they want to do their research, but they also want it to get out there and be useful for society. Yet a lot of times they want to be peripherally involved in the commercial aspect rather than to leave the university to go out and run these types of companies. And so one of the things that we're hopefully providing is a way for them to bridge into that and to continue to make contributions while focusing on their first love, which is their academic research.
So USC is home of an NSF I-Corps Center, which actually does a lot of training for academics in order to become, I'm not going to say entrepreneurs, but better entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Does AMI interface with the NSF I-Corps Center or any of the other entrepreneurial institutes?
Yeah, off and on we do. I think we all know each other, and where there's on specific technologies, companies, or ideas, we'll share resources across that. We'll work together on certain things, and then of course we do independent things. And because there's so many choices, it's sort of it's almost like time sharing, but all of the approaches are very, very useful. For one, the I-Corps approach really allows people who are just getting started to understand what it looks like to potential commercial partners and to understand those needs, because what investors are looking for is very different than how you're trained as a scientist in the laboratory. And so one of the things that they do is they teach people to go out and do the beginnings of primary market research, which is a fancy term that really means go out and talk to some human beings and find out what the real needs are. So secondary market research, which everybody instinctively does, is going on the internet and looking at Google and Wikipedia and reading things. But primary market research is much more credible because it gets you instant information from clinicians, from investors, from patients, and all this feeds back and makes your business objectives and business plan much more credible. And people naturally don't like to do this, okay? So it's hard to go out and bang on people's doors and say, will you give me 20 minutes of your time or an hour of your time to tell me all about what you think of what we're doing, and to take busy people and get them to turn their attention to your interests is a hard thing to do. And so you will face a lot of rejection. People will say, I don't have time to do this. And so it's a numbers game. And so it's hard work to go out there and talk to people. And I-Corps teaches them to do that. We do that in our own institute. On every project, we go out and talk to the ultimate beneficiaries of what we're doing to find out what they really want and what they really need. And hopefully it keeps us from going down too many wrong paths.
Is this something that one of the entrepreneurs in residence would do, or is this something that one of the other team members would do?
It's a mix. Sometimes we have entrepreneurs in residence that do it. Some of our entrepreneurs in residence have a lot of experience of doing this because they've run businesses and successfully done this in the past. But we also have a number of team members that engage in this. A number of our technical team members go on to get MBAs at the Marshall School, and in the process learn how to do this too from that standpoint, and then they apply this to their work. So we're always supportive of people with technical degrees in the Institute getting say advanced degrees in business or law or other areas, because while they're building their capabilities, it really inures to the benefit of the Institute too.
So I guess kind of a follow-up question is, how does one actually become an entrepreneur in residence, and what is that?
So for us, these are people who are later on in their career who have had quite a bit of success either on the science side in, say, medical device companies or pharmaceutical companies, or on the business side in running companies, running the operations of companies, taking companies public, raising capital. So if you go to our website and you look at the bios for the entrepreneurs in residence, they straddle a really big spectrum. No two are even close to alike, and some of them have really strong business capabilities, but the science side is not their thing. And then we have other people who have just incredible scientific and technology backgrounds and more limited on the business. But typically the entrepreneurs in residence are, to use a term, more like the gray hairs who have done a lot of worked in a lot of industries, a lot of companies, and so they have spent their whole careers helping technology development to succeed.
So they could almost act like a mentor for me if I decided I wanted to start a company. They're like an on-site resource.
They are, and they often serve in mentor capacities with some of our younger folks. We have the age range is everywhere from sort of newly minted students all the way up to people in their 70s and everywhere in between. And it's just everybody contributing what they can help with.
So thank you for joining us today. And if you have any follow-up questions, both of our contact information is available for me on my research group website at armani.usc.edu, and for John at the AMI Alfred Mann Institute website.
Yep, and you can reach me on email at lasch@usc.edu, and we're both happy to talk for many hours on these subjects, so thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook.